Hungary is a country known for its surprisingly odd presence in Central Europe because it is surrounded by 7 countries which absolutely do not relate to its culture and language. But tell you what, it is the hotbed of most modern inventions, from ball pens to safety matches, from color TVs to even atom bombs. India and Hungary have shared exceptionally cordial ties. But when it comes to taking a direct flight from Mumbai to Budapest, unfortunately, we are still short of luck. BWTV catches up with the Hungarian Foreign Minister Péter Szijjártó to talk about business relations with India, diplomacy, and global politics.
Just don't move as much because the mic is catching the movement as well. Okay. It goes to both of you.
I understood that immediately.
Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you for the invitation.
Now, you are attending the Raisina Dialogue in New Delhi, which apparently has the tagline Navigating the Alpha Century. Now, in this ever-changing dynamic world, the irony of today is that every country is trying to be alpha and protectionist. Now, in this scenario, what is the top agenda on your mind when you meet the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister in New Delhi?
Look, I'm representing a small country in Central Europe, so we are not comparable to India, of course, in this regard. But I can tell you that the current Hungarian government is a patriotic Christian Democrat government. We are proud and brave enough to say that for us, Hungary comes first. Just like we understood very well when Prime Minister Modi made it clear that for him India is first, and we understood very clearly when President Trump said that for him America is first. So we think that patriotism is not something dangerous, patriotism is not something bad. Patriots respect each other and can build up a good international cooperation. What I think would be extremely important in international politics is not that you don't take your nation as number one, because it's obvious you do so. But the important thing would be to have mutual respect returning to international politics. Debates nowadays lack respect. The debates are going very easily.
You think it's a global thing?
Yeah, to emotional, judging each other, criticizing each other, stigmatizing each other, instead of showing mutual respect.
I see.
Because if you have respect in a debate, then you can put even the most complicated issues on the agenda. But if you go emotionally immediately, then you have a very limited hope to have a rational outcome at the end of that given debate.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. So I'll take that part of the conversation and hold that thought. For now, I'll talk about India and Hungary and our trade relations. Now, your ambassador, Ulla Pito, if I pronounce that correct. Am I correct? Ulla Pito, that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Ulla Pito, okay. Your ambassador, Ulla Pito, and I quote him verbatim, he said that lack of vibrancy in engagement. There's a lack of vibrancy in engagement between India and Hungary because of absence of a problem between them. Firstly, do you concur to that thought? And secondly, what are the solutions to address these bottlenecks?
Look, it's interesting that we definitely don't have open issues in our relationship, which is good news. But sometimes there's a threat that you become the victims of your own friendship, meaning that you rather deal with those issues which create problems, and you don't put too much energies in issues which are positive or neutral. So that's why I think we should put much more emphasis on our bilateral relations. That's why I was happy last year your foreign minister paid an official visit to Budapest. He addressed the annual meeting of my ambassadors. Now I'm meeting him in Delhi, and hopefully the Prime Minister will get a chance to consult with your Prime Minister soon. I have to say that we respect a lot the Indian companies in Hungary. There is a big bunch of major investments, very important investments carried out by Indian companies in Hungary, which contribute to the success of our national economy. 10 years ago, when we took over the office, we were last in Europe, number 28. When it comes to economic growth, now we are number 1. And foreign investors played an important role in that. Among them, Indian investors played an important role in that. We have around 40 significant investors from India present in Hungary, employing more than 10,000 people. They apply state-of-the-art technology, very high added value. So they help us to make the national economy step into the next dimension.
That's good to hear. But if I understand rightly, the sectors which have been robust between India and Hungary, primarily they're ICT, auto and electronics.
Absolutely.
Apollo Tyres is one of the major investors in the country. But
absolutely.
As far as infrastructure is concerned, now this location of Hungary is very strategic. Okay, there's something called International North-South Transport Corridor.
Yes.
Between Russia, Iran, India, all of them are helping each other. Do you think Hungary could be an important contributor in that? What's your opinion?
Oh, absolutely. That's why we have launched a policy back in 2010, which is called Look to the East.
Mm-hmm.
So we have been offering really great opportunities and circumstances and conditions for investors coming from the East to put their European footprints into Hungary and then manage their European operations and feed the European markets from there. So now, last year, 2019, almost 40%, 38% of all jobs created newly in the country were created by investors coming from the East, among them Indians. Of course, Samvardhana Motherson Group already has more factories in the country. The Tata Group is a very important investor, like Apollo Tires or CG Electric. So we respect these investors a lot. We have signed a strategic cooperation agreement with some of them, and we help their further expansion in the country.
These are traditional sectors, and we are sitting in 2020. What about the emerging sectors like artificial intelligence, blockchain? Can there be collaborations explored not only among the Indian big companies but also young startups? India is an entrepreneurial hub. So can there be some collaborations explored in the new era technologies, maybe farm tech, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we speak about traditional industries and new age of global economy, we have to understand that the traditional industries are taking the lead in changing the global economy because they need a lot of new technologies. So when it comes to automotive industry, who would have thought that here we sit in 2020 and speak about the cars being driven by themselves, to speak about the growing number of electric vehicles. I just had negotiations with Mahindra where they promoted the autonomously driven tractors for agriculture, which would be extremely interesting for Hungary, given the fact that we are traditionally an agricultural country and now we just started to digitalize our national agriculture. So such kind of products, I think, can have a good opportunity, a good chance on our market. When it comes to startups, we operate a research and development fund together with the Indian government, where we can support young entrepreneurs to work together. We have opened a credit line of $330 million at the Hungarian Exim Bank to finance business-to-business cooperation between Indian and Hungarian companies. We know very well that in IT and fintech you are very developed, so that's why we would
young and entrepreneurial.
Yeah, we would invite Indian entrepreneurs to come to Hungary. We apply the lowest tax rates of Europe. We have introduced flat tax. We are the only country in Europe which offers a single-digit corporate income tax rate. So these investments in fintech, which are very much cash demanding, can be carried out in Hungary relatively easily because of the low tax rate.
But Mr. Minister, all this is good to hear, but on paper it doesn't translate into action. So when I look at the trade numbers between India and Hungary, they're quite low. What are the bottlenecks which should be addressed? Do you think Central and Eastern Europe do not have that much importance as far as India's foreign and economic policy is concerned? Because I understand Hungary has supported India on an international scale, be it NSG bid or any other platform. But why do you think India has not been able to extend as much of a friendship hand or maybe an economic hand as it should have?
Oh, look, I'm not quite sure I agree because, you are right when you speak about trade. 250 million euros, it's
less than $1 billion. And I remember in 2012 when your Prime Minister came to India in the CII summit, he did mention that our ambition is to extend the trade beyond $1 billion as soon as possible. And we're sitting in 2020.
Yeah, but we have to look at it in its entirety because economy is not only trade. Economy is about investments as well. And if you look at the investments, coming to Hungary from India, then they are booming. And if I had to make a pick, of course I don't have to, but if I had to make a pick whether I would like to enhance trade or investments, I of course pick investments. But of course my job is to do both. So what I feel and what I experience is the following: the more Indians get personal experience about Hungary, the more we can develop trade. That's why it's important that those investors who invest in Hungary, they serve kind of like goodwill ambassadors of ours, promoters of ours. So like the leaders of Tata Group, leaders of Apollo, leaders of the Mahindra, leaders of even in the Hindujas who don't have investments yet, but they are considering something. So if they speak nicely about Hungary, they share here their position that they enjoy good conditions, then it will help a lot on that side as well. And that's why it's important for me that the scholarship program between the two countries must be run properly. We offer 200 scholarships on an annual basis for Indian students.
That's the education exchange.
Yeah. 200 Indian students can study on Hungarian universities on an annual basis, fully paid by the Hungarian state. And when they return after that year, I'm pretty sure that they will make Hungary more known. And what I have talked about the governor of the Maharashtra region this morning, that what we really miss, what we really lack, is one thing: the direct air connection.
Look, I've been told that you hate political correctness.
Yeah, I definitely do.
So it's 2020, and why aren't Mumbai and Budapest directly connected according to you?
I have to tell you it's crazy, but European Commission is to be blamed. And I tell you why. My Prime Minister made an agreement with the Turkish President that Turkish Airlines would start flying between Mumbai and Budapest. And in order to give this right to a carrier which is a foreign from the perspective of both destination and origin, so not Hungarian, not Indian, you need the permission of the European Commission. And the European Commission referred to I'm sorry to use this expression, stupid reference that there are ongoing negotiations between European Commission and India about some free sky agreement. But okay, come on, don't be that bureaucratic. There would be now a chance to have a direct air connection, another one between India and the European capital. Why not they allowed to do so? So now as the new commission is being set up, I'm gonna negotiate with the responsible commissioner, the new one, to get rid of this bureaucratic approach and let the Turkish Airlines fly between Mumbai and Budapest, because it's good for Hungary, and what is good for Hungary is good for Europe, and what is good for the Indian-Hungarian cooperation is good for the Indian-European cooperation.
Sure. We'll come to European Union in a short while. But first, let's talk about Indian collaborations, which you're talking about. The Visegrad Group, which is the big four in the European Union. Are you exploring any defense and military equipment ties within India, from India?
Well, actually, when it comes to Hungary, I can only speak on behalf of ours. We are now carrying out a very robust program of modernizing our national army. This has two goals. Number one, to be stronger when it comes to defense. Number two, to meet the NATO obligation of ours, which puts us in a position to reach 2% of GDP when it comes to defense spending by 2024. So now we are expanding. We are modernizing. Last year we have spent more than 20% of our defense expenditure on modernization, on development. We understand that there are Indian companies, among them the Tata Group, which are pretty developed on, let's say, instruments and applications when it comes to defense. This morning I had a meeting with them, and we agreed on starting negotiations on expert level, what kind of role India and the Tata Group would play in the modernization of our national army.
Is there any role for startups as well? Because a lot of miniature startups are coming up in India.
Yeah, of course.
In the field of defense.
Yeah. When it comes to defense, we really value the startups, we value their technical solutions, and we understand that maybe army, military defense is the sector which needs the quickest adjustment to the technological developments, because new technologies mean new source of threat. And in order to address these threats, defense must be technologically ready for it.
Great. So we'll hear something in 2 days.
Yeah, hopefully.
Sure. So let me get to the other part of the interview. You spoke about European Union and how because of certain policies there's not yet a direct flight between Mumbai and Budapest. Yeah, that is stupid in this day and age. Let me frame it this way. Are there any frictions between Hungary and the European Union? Because the world has seen some of them in the recent past. Your Prime Minister openly criticized European Union and praised Boris Johnson when he, catalyzed his exit from the Union. Do you think more countries will follow the suit? And as a country, do you feel somewhat, curtailed in expanding your arms and doing trade in a free-wheeling way? They should be. So, what do you feel about these restrictions?
Look, first of all, I'd like to stress that Hungary is a member of the European Union and will remain member of the European Union.
So that's what most of the countries say.
It's not a question, of course, because it's very beneficial for us to be members of the EU, but it's very beneficial for the EU that Hungary is a member, for
That's
sure.
correct, yeah.
So it's mutually beneficial, let's put it this way. But there's now a big debate within the European Union which way to go forward. Because European Union has been faced with historic challenges: migration, Brexit, energy security, relationship to Russia, relationship to the US. So a lot of questions, real questions. And if you have real questions, you have to look for real answers. And if there are 28 or 27 different nations looking for one answer, then obviously there are debates. So I don't think it would be bad news that there are debates within the European Union. The bad news is these debates go emotional and stigmatizing immediately instead of keeping it on a common sense basis and on a basis of mutual trust.
But don't you think this was inevitable, the way human psychology works, Economically, when you unionize 28 countries, there are bound to be challenges. This was inevitable.
But it's not, I don't look at it as a big problem that there are debates and challenges. We have to overcome them. But overcoming them needs respect, trust, and common sense.
You don't find that?
Instead of hysteria and political correctness and hypocrisy and double standards. So, there's a group of countries which are very common sense based, rational, paying respect to each other. Central Europe is leading this pack. So we will take part in these debates in the future, for sure, and we represent a position which really aims to make European Union strong again. But we think that in order to make EU strong again, we have to make the member states themselves strong. So it doesn't work that you weaken the member states and then Brussels will be stronger. No. The way to go forward is to have strong member states based on which European Union can be strong again. So for us, it's vital that we as Hungary, we stick to our national identity, to our religion, to our culture, to our historic heritage, and we are not ready to give them up.
That's great. So Indian investors don't have to worry about Hungary exit, like the way they are worried about Brexit.
No, come on.
That's that. Okay.
Absolutely.
So moving on to the last part of the interview, when you spoke about mutual trust, respect, the world we are living in, the global GDP growth is down to 3.5%. Every country is down back to protectionism. And let me talk about America. And I'm not talking about Trump's America, the America which was before Trump. America reached where it is today because of immigration. It invited people from all across the world. Why do you think we are at a situation where most of the countries are trying to protect their turf? And where do you see this going as far as economic viability is concerned?
Look, once again, I'm representing a small country, so I don't want to become ridiculous by trying to shine up as the one who has the crystal ball. But what I think is the following, that
But you come from a small country,
Yeah.
but the Prime Minister of your small country mentioned that we will make a choice whether we want to keep Europe multicultural or Christian.
And this is important.
Yeah, that's not a small statement coming from a small country.
Of course. The thing is that political correctness and hypocrisy is all around. And expectations are being dictated by international liberal media. And those politicians who cannot resist that, those politicians who cannot look at the will of the people as the only compass, they can be faced with tremendous challenges for sure. When it comes to multiculturalism, Hungary has always been a single cultural country in this regard. And we do not accept that a multicultural society should be, by definition, more valuable than a society which is not multicultural, So we should leave it to the given nation to make a decision which way that nation would like to live. And if that nation would like to live under multicultural circumstances, let's let it do so. But if a country does not want to do so, then it must be respected as well. So the major challenge in the European Union is that there's pressure being put on those who think not according to the mainstream. Now look, the Hungarian government definitely represents a political strategy or policy or a position outside or objective to the mainstream. But this should be respected as well, because those who criticize us because of not being mainstream, they try to portray themselves as Democrats. Well, come on. I mean, democracy means that there are different positions, different approaches. Some approaches form the majority, some approaches are in the minority. But if you try to lock those out who are in the minority, it will not create a democracy. It will create something totally different.
I get what you're saying, but you see, whatever you're saying is not confined. It expands eventually. So the US-China trade war is eventually a result of economic protectionism.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is political protectionism. So talking about US-China trade deal, do you think it has affected global economic relations worldwide?
Oh yeah. We have an economy which is very open. Our export over GDP ratio is 85%. So we are absolutely interested in global trade and global economy to be free and fair.
But that won't suffice unless there's mutual trust.
And free of obstacles. And the problem is that if there's a trade war between China and the US, that would mean very bad news to Hungary, because our number one export market outside of the European Union is the US, and the number two export market outside of the European Union is China. Now, if these two go into a battle, then it will definitely have negative impact on their economies. And that would mean that those who export to these two countries will face some additional challenges as well. So that's why we urge the global trade to be free and fair. Of course, national interest will be put as number one by all countries, but I think these two do not exclude each other.
That's a very very well articulated, but there is a strong contradiction in whatever you say. When we talk about illegal immigrants and migrant laborers, okay, and the lawful migrants, they're quite interrelated. And I know you do not agree with this theory, but the fact of the matter is, illegal immigration and the way it works well on paper, but eventually in society and in real life, it transforms and transcends into something else. When you outcast members of certain community from a country, and I'm not saying that you do it with a certain agenda, but what happens is it translates into the fear into the minds of minorities and amongst the people. It does not work like that in real life. It is different in diplomatic corridors. Like in India, I understand recently there was a citizenship amendment bill. Now, on paper, the bill looks fine, but in real life, it didn't work like that. There was a propagation of fear amongst minorities. So, do you think countries like yours and ours as well, globally as well, protectionism needs to be treated with a path of a little consideration for everybody?
Look, we represent a very strong anti-migration policy, and we made it clear that for us national sovereignty comes first, meaning that it is only us, Hungarians, who can make a decision whom we allow to enter our country and whom we do not allow. It is only us to make a decision with whom we are ready to live together and with whom not. So no one, no international organization, neither Brussels, nor New York, nor Geneva, should take away or over this right of ours. This is number one. Number two, all countries have their right to make their decision how to deal with the challenges regarding labor market. So I understand that there are EU member states even who say that they need migrant workers. Okay, I respect that. But then don't put pressure on us, countries like us, who think a different way, because we don't need migrant workers in our labor market. We are fine. We modernize our national education system. We face the challenges. We help the families to grow more kids. And this is the long-term solution. So that should be respected. Not to speak about the security aspect of illegal migration. Look, we had 400,000 illegal migrants marching through our country back in 2015, behaving very aggressively, occupying public areas, blocking the traffic, attacking our police. I mean, this is not the way you should behave if you go to another country.
Till the time there are wars, till the time there are income inequalities, human migration is inevitable. We cannot escape them. As a foreign minister who has a global perspective and has traveled the world, you're well read, how do you see this as an end game? Where is all this going? If every country starts talking about mutual respect and space, which I rightfully agree, where are we headed to? And what kind of world are we leaving for our children?
Our position in this regard is different than the mainstream, because we think that the solution for this phenomenon, which definitely exists, that there are many people on the road, is not that we invite these people. We think that the solution is that we bring help where it is needed. So our principle is bring help where it is needed and don't bring problems where there are no problems. So again, we are a small country, but we spent so far $50 million on helping 70,000 Christians in the Middle East to be able to stay in their homes or to return. by rebuilding their houses, by rebuilding their schools, by financing their hospitals to operate, by rebuilding their churches. So we don't want to bring them to other places of the world. What we want is to help them to be able to stay where they were living. And I think this should, the focus of global thinking about this existing phenomenon of massive migration must be changed. So instead of encouraging people to hit the road, make the circumstances to make it possible for them to stay.
His Excellency, thank you so much for your time, and thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.